Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Allah,
barakatuh.
MashaAllah, Mohamed AlMasmari.
How are you,
كيف
Sheikh? How you doing, Ustadh? Good to see you.
Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal. I praise Allah in all situations. It is better to see you. Trust me. I
Better
want
see
to.
you. The last time I saw you, you killed us on the court, you know?
We actually played together and we won. We won.
Yeah,
We
but I was
won.
impressed, mashallah. You really, people talk the talk, but you really, not
Allah
even,
Akbar.
you didn't even walk the walk. You just ran with it.
Allahu Akbar. The husn, the good is in your eye, my brother. The good
Mashallah,
is in your eye, my
mashallah.
brother. Masha, I want to thank Sabria, Aisha, the entire Mesa, the entire team that helps us, coordinate these conversations. This is one aspect that of my professional work that I look forward to most because inside, secretly, I want to be a media personality. Not
How
not,
come?
uh, not a teacher of Islam. This gives me an opportunity to blend both of those interests simultaneously. So today I have with me, yes, he graduated from Jami'atul Iman. Yes, he was an imam in California. Yes, he is currently leading a new project in the Bloomfield Hills area.
No,
The new
Southfield.
Yes, Southfield area. Yes, he has one of the most calming and beautiful recitations of the Quran
You're
of
so nice,
anyone
bro.
I've prayed behind. Yes, he is a very gracious host every time that we come to Southeast Michigan. But even more importantly than that, he's my friend and he's my brother,
Love
Mohamed
you, Sheikh.
AlMasmari. No, I love you
The
too,
love is
Habib.
mutual. Wallahi, Allah is my witness.
Alhamdulillah. So they want us to talk about marriage, and I want to be transparent. I want to be honest that when we first presented you with the topic of the marriage crisis, your response was, "What crisis?" Right? Is there a marriage crisis? So when you hear the term marriage crisis, what comes to mind for you?
Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Jazakumullah khair, Ustad. It's so beautiful to be with you. And by the way, this is not an interview, so don't just, take the seat back and trying to ask questions and relax, please. I know you were trying to lay that foundation by saying I'm a media person. It's not going to work today. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time.
Allah
Um,
Akbar. Allah Akbar.
of course, when it comes to marriage crisis, you can talk about our marriages. You can talk about um, divorces within the community, people delaying marriage, people no longer believing in marriage and the institution of marriage because it costs so much to get married. It's like another student loan. So there's so many ways to address this, and I feel that our communities must take this topic very seriously in order for us to preserve our Islam and to maintain Islam within our households. This is very serious when it comes to family, when it comes to marriage. It's necessary for us to really address this seriously, and this is very alarming because we see this. I always tell people, as a disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, nor I'm trying to be a therapist, but I'm someone that cares about Islam, cares about Muslims, and cares about the upliftment of our Muslim community.
Allahu Akbar.
And we have our own ways of addressing these issues because we live to see them day in and day out. And sometimes I speak with therapists and I tell them, listen, my approach is an imam's approach. And you may not align with my approach or agree with it, but hopefully we're able to see our communities grow and preserve our marriages and protect our families. So there's so many ways of addressing this stuff.
Allahu Akbar. I mean, so when you said what crisis, you were just joking. You understand
Yeah,
that
yeah.
for many young people, the prospect of marriage, it's seeming more and more distant every day. In fact, I think with some of our young men, we have a difficult time even incentivizing them, right? Even talking about marriage, many of them talk about it like, okay, it's the religiously responsible thing to do after I finish having my fun. You know, what do you say to young brothers in particular? Because among young sisters, I think the crisis is the availability of eligible, qualified men But among brothers, we have a difficult time convincing them that no, you should marry, and you should marry sooner than later. How do you address this, or how have you addressed this as an imam?
So, study, I think the trend has changed. It's no longer the same. I
Mm.
think that was a problem a few years ago,
Okay.
where many youth would say, and when I say few, I'm talking about 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, where
Mm-hmm.
you had men that we needed to convince to get married, and people that would respond with a
Mm-hmm.
similar response by saying, you know what, we want to have fun, we want to enjoy life. I don't think that's the case. I,
Allahu Akbar.
I feel that the biggest obstacle in the face of our children are the parents,
Mm.
not the youth. I think the youth are receptive to the idea. And the youth, they're being raised and trained to understand that marriage is a pillar. It's even a pillar of one's faith. In order for us,
Mm-hmm.
in a hadith, nisful iman, it's half of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And many of our youth have come to realize that, and they have acknowledged that this is something that they need to be doing to preserve their iman and to preserve Islam in their hearts. But subhanallah, I think it's mostly coming from the parents. The parents have set so
Mm.
many obstacles. I feel that parents, because I'm like in the middle between the parents and the youth, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like parents don't have a strong grasp of what the challenges are, and they think that somehow they're the exemption, they're the exception of all the challenges that are happening, and they're not listening to their kids. They're not listening to
Mm.
what their challenges are. I always tell parents, you cannot eliminate desire. You can only suppress it, you can control it. But what they're doing is that they're trying to eliminate this thought, eliminate their desires by saying, you know what, control yourself for the next few years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed this in us. This is part of our fitrah. So for you trying to
Mm-hmm.
eliminate this, it's not healthy to begin with. And
Mm.
Islam allowed us to seek a halal channel. But for us that we try to, just eliminate it, I think we're failing our youth. And the biggest problem are the parents. And
What I mean now, so now before I want to go into that, but before doing so, I think it's important to give a disclaimer that when we talk about our youth or the Muslim community broadly, we have to break that down into smaller sub communities. Because I think, like for instance, in the African American Muslim community, the issue of parents, impeding marriage is not as much an issue as it is available, eligible young men in, say, the Yemeni American community or Indian American community or Pakistani American community or Palestinian American community. This issue of the parents might be more of an issue. Now, dealing with this issue of the parents, however, I've seen a few trends. One, the parents want the children to complete certain prerequisites to have the job, to have the place, to have the savings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And the children, in the meantime, they're dating, they're doing things that I really worry can affect their ability to enter marriage as a tayyib person, as just just a good person. I think they're suppressing, they're repressing, they're hiding, they're lying, right? That's one issue that I see with parents. The second issue that I see with parents is that parents are holding on to this vain idea that marriage for their child is going to look like marriage looked for them. That when I got married in Sana'a, or when I got married in Damascus, I got married in Damascus, or I got married in Karachi, or I got married in UP, this is how you're going to get married. I'm going to bring the person to you. They're going to be from our tribe. They're going to be from our village. It might be your cousin, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that marriage culture and what the children expect, there's a misalignment between those two. I'm sure you've seen a little bit of both of those.
100%, 100%. So of course, that is addressed through communication. There has to be um, a lot of the times, when it comes to marriage, I think the parents themselves are not ready. to send their kids out, nor they've prepared their kids for marriage. So they come up with all these justifications because in their mindset, again, like what you said, how marriage was back in the day. But I feel even when it comes to today, like we haven't raised responsible children to take on that responsibility. Because for the parents, it's a long-term plan. So once they graduate, once they do this, and in the process, as they're trying to achieve their long-term goals, we're losing a lot of our youth, and it's affecting their iman. I know some people say, okay, but marriage is not only about sexual desires, but it's a big part of it. It does play a role. It does protect one's chastity.
You think it plays a role?
I'm just saying, some people, they just come up with these things. Okay, well, we want to be mature, and they come up with all these arguments that don't make sense. But I just feel like, subhanallah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Wala yazni zani hina yazni wa huwa mu'min." It's one of the only sins where a person is living in the absence of faith upon such engagement. When they're engaging in zina, there is no iman in their heart. And it's very scary. And the ulama would say, then we fear that the iman does not come back in. What happens when they lose their Islam?
Salbul iman.
Yeah, salbul iman. So we have to be very careful to make sure that to understand what is our priority as Muslims living in the West. And Islam, the preservation of Islam and iman should be on the top of the list. And then we plan accordingly. But we can't find ourselves sacrificing Islam and Iman in the process of achieving our goals. And it becomes even wrong to live in such place when Islam is the compromise.
I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly.
I want you to stop asking. I want you to say stuff.
No. I want to ask you this question, and I think, ironically, you are the appropriate person to ask this question. And the reason I think so is because you are Yemeni. You live in Southeast Michigan within a Yemeni community, and you have a good rapport with, various Muslim communities. I've never met any community that didn't have good things to say about Imam Mohamed AlMasmari. Right, but I do know that there is, حب الوطن شيء طبيعي في الإنسان. Love of one's homeland is something natural for people. And if someone asks me, in addition to being a beautiful brother, do you think that Sheikh Mohammed is a proud Yemeni? I would say he is certainly a proud Yemeni. He's it's like don't give me in trouble, man. No. I mean, very few people can thread that needle. That you are at one and the same time a member of the Ummah at large, but I also see you as a proud member of the Yemeni community, which is how I see myself. I'm a member of the Ummah at large, and I'm a proud member of the African American community. How do you deal with this issue of culturally or ethnically specific marriages? How do you deal with that issue? And you can be honest with me.
It's like where you say like Yemenis getting married to Yemenis?
Or Yemenis want, when parents of Yemenis say, my daughter wants to marry someone, but he's Palestinian. My daughter wants to marry, she met a nice man, but he's Syrian. She met a nice man, but he's black or he's white. And they seek your counsel. Oh, look, I see the smile is growing. Now the head is shaking. No.
This is my first time on ALIM program. I don't want to.
No. So I'm asking, and I think you would be a good person to ask. How do you deal with it? How do you counsel those parents? Or how do you counsel the young man or young woman?
So I think, Ustadi, it's necessary to listen to both sides, to hear the parents out, and to understand their concerns. Mm-hmm. I do think it is permissible Islamically if both proposals were Islamically equal in terms of the both men that are coming seeking this girl's hand, and they're proposing to get married to her, and both of them are equally religious, and mashallah, very good in their deen. They have good khuluq, good manners, that you can prefer one ethnicity over the other.
Okay.
But you don't choose based off ethnicity.
Okay.
That's when it becomes wrong. That even though this person is far more pious than this person, I choose a person from my tribe. I think that's wrong. But if people, wallahu a'lam, are equal in their approach to Islam, their practice of Islam, then one prefers a person that understands their cultural backgrounds and where they're coming from and the family. I think that is completely acceptable.
No,
And
I'll take it one step further. I'll take it even a step further than that. I'll say this, right? It is my ardent desire that my daughter would marry an African American Muslim just like me, right? Like that is my, like, I will say that unapologetically. If someone asks me, what kind of man do you anticipate marrying your daughters? I say, obviously, someone smart, handsome, African American, very dapper dresser, well spoken. No, right. But the question becomes, for people like us that have some pride, not pride, but we would value the continuity that our children marrying people from among our people entails. Like, that continuity would be a good thing to me. The question becomes, when the children want to marry someone who isn't Yemeni, who isn't African American, meaning, like, it's not like two people are equal, right? Because if she's like, Dad, it's between Naveed and Malik, I'm gonna say Malik if they're otherwise equul, right?
so, what's your response, Ustadh?
This is an expression of my himna, like where I want to go, is that I would make clear to my daughter that, I always anticipated you marrying someone that, continued, so that you marrying someone that enabled the legacy of our family to continue in its current kind of makeup and constitution. But if you want to marry someone and they're a good Muslim, they have good character, I don't see it as my position to stand in the way of that because of what I want. And it would entail me, number one, embracing the universality of Islam, that, hey, it's clear what I want, but I am not going to prevent you from doing something that is from the Sunnah of the Prophet. He married Sophia. He married Maria, right? I'm not going to, people that were not from, Banu Hashim, they were not Hashimi, right? I am not going to stand in the way of you doing something that is from the Sunnah of the Prophet because of my personal interest in, the continuity of the African American Muslim family or whatever it is, right? And I tell parents all the time, it's don't think that because I'm American, I don't identify with you. I do. You probably wouldn't realize that I love my people as much as you love yours, right? But these are two young people that want to do something for Allah. They want to do something for Allah. And if we stand in the way of them doing this for Allah, if something unfortunate happens from this point, what will we say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's where I try to go myself. And this is how I try to talk to parents.
It's a very similar approach, Ustadh. To be honest, it's very similar, because in the end, if this person is wise enough to choose the right person, that our parents testify for their belief, their iman, their Islam, then ethnicity should not come in the way.
Exactly.
Because in the end, we have to make sure that we're not preserving only just wallahi, my personal preference and my lineage and we're trying to preserve a family. And that is my priority. So I always tell people, I sit down with the parents, I sit down with the youth, I say, okay, why do you like this person? If I hear that this individual or this young sister likes this brother for the right reasons, and mashallah, he is a well-balanced brother or a person that practices their deen, I immediately head to the father and say, you're doing her wrong. This is dhulm.
Subhanallah.
So 100% study whatever.
No. And you know, and I tell people this all the time. You might not believe this, but when I first embraced Islam, I came into Islam through a kind of hyper militant black nationalism. That's how I came into Islam. And there was a time in my life, a lot of people don't believe this, where if I saw a black woman with a white man, it was something that would irritate me. I had an intrinsic reaction to it, like, no,
your facial expression still shows that you were hurt by it.
It was something. It was like I had a certain ghayra, you know, like. However, upon being a Muslim, I met some interracial couples that had so much integrity in their relationship, like the way these two people treated each other, the way they regarded each other, the devotion they had to the partnership. It forced me to say, if I think that there's something wrong with this, two people doing what they're doing for each other for the sake of Allah, there's something wrong with me.
Wow.
Right? I saw people that were they had that much integrity. And this is what forced me to reevaluate that view. Right? It forced me to reevaluate that view. So I say to these parents, like, you got to really think about this. The second thing I'll say, since you want me to say some stuff, the second thing I'll say is, okay, man, I got this idea. Imam, if you want to do this with me, I think this will be crazy. Look, there's this idea I have about, have you ever heard of the program Scared Straight? Where it's like Scared Straight is where you have these young men that are like gravitating toward a life of criminality, and then they take them to prison and they talk to some people that are in prison, and the inmates are trying to convince those young men to take a different course in life. Okay. But sometimes they try to intimidate the young men, right? It's a well-known program, right? I have this idea of a Scared Straight for Muslim parents, right? And so basically it's like a short movie, and I'm like the narrator, and I'm dressed very well, and I say to the parents, please come along.
Hey, son, you're always dressed well, so you don't even
no. So I say, please come along, take a ride with me, and then we're like kind of floating down the street, and I say, you're about to meet Maryam. When she was 23, she told her parents that she wanted to marry a man who wasn't Yemeni. He was a practicing, good Palestinian man. The parents rejected this idea. Maryam grew to distrust her parents' judgment. As a result, she started dating a non-Muslim named Tom. Now, she's pregnant with Tom's child. Right.
I already got goosebumps.
Now she's pregnant with Tom's child. And she's contemplating how she could ever talk to her mother about this. Let's go in and just have a look at Maryam. Then, like, the scene shifts, and she's in the room, and she's depressed, and she's sweating, and she feels like, she's like losing her iman, and she's under all of this pressure, and the camera is like panning and looking at her. And I say to the parents, you see, all of this could have been prevented if her parents were just a little more open-minded.
That's scary. You just scared me.
No. I have an idea, but I want to do this like a short, like 10-minute movie, and I give a few different scenarios. but that would be the scenario. It's like scared straight. I have one where the person gets involved with a non-Muslim, both a man and a woman, premarital relationship. Then I have one where the person gets so frustrated they turn to like a same-sex situation. They kept trying to get married. And since his parents didn't support him, this is what he's doing now. Oh, if his parents
got married to Tim.
Yeah. Oh, if his parents could see him now, they'd be so disappointed. I bet at this point they would reconsider Fatima, even though she happened to be a convert. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good idea, Ustadh. I'm serious.
No. Sometimes you have to show people, look, this is something you should be thankful to Allah. Your children are coming to you, telling you they want to marry someone, and you're disappointed that the person is not from this village in Pakistan? You're disappointed that the person is not African American? Maybe you're missing the forest for the trees, even though I understand how passionate we can be, about those things. Now, moving on. No, it's an idea, bro. It's an idea.
But it is deep. It's scary. Especially the way you presented it.
No, but okay. So what about on the communal level? I have a question here. Should we encourage people to be open, look across ethnicities in terms of marriage on the communal level? Is it something you would encourage people to do?
Would I encourage people to do? Of course.
Yeah, me too.
For me, the standard is Islam and Iman and Khuluq. إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. In the end, Islam dictates how we make decisions, regardless of our tribal affiliations or what we may be attracted to. The Prophet ﷺ has made it very clear. If someone comes and proposes and they are known to be among those whom have deen and good character, the Prophet ﷺ said, allow them to get married. So, and this is what makes Islam beautiful, is that you have people. No.
I'm following. No, you're onto something very important.
This is the beauty of Islam, that you're able to see people coming from different ethnicities, and what brings them together is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
And this is something that people should, I think we've set the bar too high. And especially with our youth are suffering from this, regardless of what Islam says. I think Islam, tells us to be open, but I feel that what we've done as communities, as the Muslim community, many of our communities, is that we've restricted our children not only to one ethnicity. I think ethnicity is even an old talk. You're talking about the town. You're talking about a village. I'm serious. You restricted your child. I have to wait for this magical person to come by from the heavens to get married to. And our kids pay the price. So I think it's not even like Arabs and non-Arabs. It's Arabs among Arabs. And then say if they're Yemeni, then Yemenis among Yemenis. And then the South and the North. And then within the North. It's crazy. And all this is non-Islamic.
What I think about this often, man, I think that sometimes the parents have to have it explained to them that you never get something for nothing. That's not the way the world works. So if you were very comfortable with the cultural setting of Ta'iz, you're from Ta'iz, you're very comfortable there, right? And you decide for political freedom, you decide for upward economic mobility, you decide for other reasons, you want to take up residence in the United States, and you move to Hamtramck, right? Which is basically like Thais. You move to America. You have to expect that in leaving your country of origin and moving, there are certain cultural expectations that you must let go.
SubhanAllah.
Right? It's like you don't get something. Like sometimes I look at the parents and I say, Did you make the money? You got the money? Okay, you got the money. Did you get the political representation and freedom that you were seeking? You got the political freedom. Okay, you got. Did you get the prophet? You got all of those things? Okay, this is what you got. Let me tell you what you have to give up. Your children might not marry like they would have married in Hadramaut, right? Your children might not marry like they might have married in Damascus, right? Deen might not be as monolithic. Sometimes people move from one place and they're like, I just saw somebody in the masjid praying like this. I said, well, you're not in Karachi anymore, where Islam has, it's a much more homogenous. We're all Hanafi. We're all, now you're in a community where some people just say Bismillah and eat Chick-fil-A. Some people only eat the biha. You have to be, you moved. You moved. If you wanted to keep things the way that they were, why did you leave? To me, it's an unrealistic expectation. I want things to be exactly like I'm accustomed to, but I want to move tens of thousands of miles around the world. It doesn't work like that, right? However, where I want to hear you kind of bring us, we're in the clouds right now. Let's come back down to earth. We know that in fiqh, there is a bab of kafa. There's a chapter of suitability, right? There's kafa in marriage. There's suitability in marriage, and ethnicity is sometimes mentioned, right? Socioeconomic class is always mentioned, right? The two people come from similar class backgrounds. How do you manage that? You have a sister or a brother from a very wealthy background, somebody they're thinking about from a background that's more humble. How do we deal with that? It's a reality. Zainab bin Jahsh.
You're putting me on the spot. What do you do?
No, I think I try to be transparent with them. I mean, the story of Zayd ibn al-Haritha and Zainab bint Jahsh, radiyallahu anhuma, two of the best people that ever lived. But because of the difference in their backgrounds, were not able to live together harmoniously. So my point is that not all of this can just be brushed aside and it's because Zayd had deen and he had khuluq, unquestionably. And Zainab, she had deen and she had khuluq, unquestionably. There were still certain factors that frustrated their ability to live together peacefully. How do we help people to see it's not just deen, khuluq, and love conquers all? Some of these cultural factors, some of these economic factors, some of these social factors are real.
Mm-hmm. For me, an easy answer, Ustadi, for these social factors, I don't perform a marriage contract unless they've gone through premarital counseling.
Allahu Akbar.
I feel that addresses many of these problems. And the people that I'm dealing with, I have a list of premarital therapists that people go to that are aware of these issues. I feel they do it best because they have to talk about lifestyle. They have to talk about finances. They have to talk about culture. And I feel that really helps us navigate through these questions because there's a long list of questions that are, hidden or maybe overlooked by one's emotional connection. And I feel that therapists are very good in just uncovering these questions. And this is why for the last maybe 8 years, it's mandatory. Like I tell people, what else you want? You're going to have a sheikh that's going to drive to do a aqd for you, that's going to be there to give a short talk. And the only thing I require of you is that you go and go through a premarital counseling session. And that has really helped navigate through these challenges of study.
No, I think this is very important because this idea that, we're talking about, deen, khuluq, but the idea that, the daughter of a surgeon and the son of, a person who works in labor, they can just automatically, if they have deen, they have good akhlaq, they're not going to have any problems. And as soon as she says, "Okay, hon, time to go shopping," and she goes to Whole Foods and spends, $700 on the groceries, he's gonna look and say, "La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam." What are we? What's happening here? What?
And finances is the leading cause of divorce.
Yeah, of course. They say that divorce. I've heard. Of course, I have lots of family counselors and therapists in my network as well. They say that the leading cause of divorce is finances.
Yes.
Then sex. Then kids.
No, the lack of intimacy, not.
No, that's what they mean. They mean the lack of intimacy, argumentation around intercourse, around intimacy. So it's right. You know, mashallah.
Well, you took the in-laws out. Come on.
No, a lot of people say that this is becoming less of an issue. Although, trust me, it can be an issue. It can be an issue. But no, my in-laws are great, by the way. Especially if they're watching. I love you all. Yeah. I love you. I love you dearly. I love my in-laws. I love them.
My in-laws don't have access to internet. I'm good.
Okay. My in-laws are in North Carolina, and I really, I'm being facetious for the sake of the audience, but I really do love I love my father-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. I love my brother-in-law. I love my sister-in-law. Mashallah. But I hope that my wife can say the same thing.
No, she's good. Mashallah. I've traveled with her too. You and her, mashallah. Both of you are amazing.
I hope that my wife can say the same thing. But I know that there's a lot of questions. But I'm just selfishly going to ask you, a few more. So we're dealing with people before they get married. What about the people remaining married? Okay, so there's a crisis on that side. I'll have you for 10 more minutes before we open the floor. And Sister Sabria said that there's lots of questions. So what would you say, and I know as an imam, all of this showed up at your doorstep, marital problems, right? What, and of course you just mentioned premarital counseling, but even when people are married, what are some steps they can take to preserve, the solidity, the solidness of their marriage? How can people, stay tapped in?
Allah Jazaak al-Khair. I think a few points that I can share. Number one, marriage is half of faith. We know how much we work and how much mujahada we engage in to attain our faith and to preserve it. Marriage is half. You can just imagine how much difficulty comes along with it. It requires a lot of a person. It's not. It wasn't mentioned it wasn't said for nothing. We were told by the Prophet that it's half for a reason. Another point. People fail to understand that marriage is work. It's the only ibadah that requires 24 hours.
Allahu Akbar.
Every ibadah is limited. You have salah, you have zakah, you have hajj. When it comes to marriage, it's ongoing, day and night. You have to cater to your spouse's emotions. You have to listen to them. You have to be a great listener. You have to communicate with them. And you may not be in the mood. You may not be at the right place. But regardless, you're putting forth work. People need to know that marriage is work. And this is why there's so much ajr in marriage. Another point that I remind my brothers and sisters is that your marriage must be your priority. It's not your children. A lot of the time, people prioritize their children over their marriage. And this is why when you look at divorce numbers, many of the problems that happen later on after 25 years of marriage. There was a study that was conducted of when people engage in haram behavior, getting to know people, changing, trying to beautify themselves, or sometimes cheating takes place. They say after 25 years of marriage.
SubhanAllah.
Yes. And the reason behind that is because these two individuals have nothing and nothing in common. The center of attention was all poured into their children. Every time we walk in, it's just she did, he did, they studied, she studied, they failed, he passed, and we just focus on our children. So what happens when they all leave? We no longer have anything that we can relate to.
Wow.
And this is where problems then begin. The last point that I want you to talk, there's a lot of things that are just crossing
No,
my
Bismillah,
mind.
Bismillah. Halal.
The Prophet ﷺ says a beautiful hadith. He says, لكل شرة, the Prophet ﷺ says, لكل فترة, what's the hadith? اللهم صل على محمد. Yeah, he says لكل عمل شرة ولكل شرة فترة. That for every action you and I will engage in, there's a peak. Like Ramadan, you experience this spiritual high, like you're fully engaged. وَلِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ, and for every peak there's a downfall. Prophet ﷺ says, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ اهْتَدَى. If your downfall meets the bare minimum of the Prophet's sunnah, then you and I have been guided. So what happens, people love the lovey-dovey experience, but what happens in the downfall is what causes, the disunity, and what brings about destruction. So people not agreeing that, like in the beginning of the marriage, that regardless of what happens, we will never go below this. Like this is the furthest we will go. We will never use foul language. We will never raise our hand. We will never insult. We will never. If we can meet that, then our khilaf can be maintained. Ustadi, how many times Americans co-parenting, and they travel, they go on vacations, and everyone's married. Muslims, by the time we end marriage, that's it. It's like we're ready to take it to the next level. You don't want to say it, because there's no we just go down. Well, once problems begin, there's no solid grounding.
There's no baseline.
There's no baseline.
There's no base. It's like we go down and we go to the bottom of the ocean, as opposed to, even if we go down, this is a place that we don't go below, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمْسِكُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ أَوْ سِرِّحُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Right? You can be together in goodness, or you can be apart in goodness.
100%.
Right? But it's always ma'roof. It's never, meaning I always tell people, the partnership or the separation is an option. Right? سِرِّحُهُنَّ أَوْ أَمْسِكُهُنَّ. Right? The partnership or but the ma'roof is not an option. Right? The goodness is not an option, because the goodness is not merely connected to just the other person. The goodness is connected to our taqwa. Right? It's every time a person gets married, we all recite the first ayah of Surah An-Nisa. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ رَقِيبًا. Right? Allah is over both of you a watcher. So that the couple is reminded that this relationship is it's us at the base of the pyramid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the top. And as long as Allah is maintained at the top of that triangle, then we can be good to each other at the base. Right? If Allah is not maintained at the top, the triangle is now inverted, and we're at the top, and Shaitan is pulling us down to even lower than we were at the base, right? As opposed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inspiring us to go up in our commitment to each other and in our service to one another. So mashallah, man. So
one more point, Ustadi, just before I forget, is subhanallah, we don't cater to one's life changes. So for me, I've been married mathalan for 18 years.
Allahu Akbar. You look like you're 18 years old.
You're so beautiful. It's your beautiful eyes. My daughter's starting college this year.
Allahu Akbar. My daughter made 17 today.
Oh, mashallah. Happy birthday.
Inshallah.
Ustadi, sometimes when we address our, trying to address our challenges, or just support one another emotionally and try to communicate, we fail to understand that the same Muhammad you married 10 years ago is not the same Muhammad 10 years later. So there's no growth in the process of marriage. So we don't cater to one's spiritual needs, emotional needs, physical needs. And this is also what leads to the breaking of the family. So we have to make sure that when I'm talking to my spouse, I'm no longer talking to the 23-year-old when she's 40. Or when he's 40.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but back then you can give her a flower, and she'll be all excited about it. Now she wants you to take care of the kids and let her go out, somewhere to relax.
Of course,
So you have to understand that people that don't grow with their spouse and try to figure out how to better this marriage and address its challenges also fail in their marriage because they're still living with the same mindset.
Allah, that's beautiful, man. But I think that requires just an emotional intelligence and an awareness that you're paying. Because see, a lot of times I think our marriages suffer when we don't pay attention. We're not really, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in the Sahih. Aisha, radiallahu anha, she had some heavily embroidered curtains that she put over the window. And when the Prophet ﷺ came in and saw the embroidered curtains, he didn't say anything, but he indicated, ashara bi wajhi. He did something with his face that indicated that he didn't like, the curtains. And she said, "Tubtu ilallahi wa rasuli." She said, like, what have I done wrong? I repent to Allah and I repair my relationship with you. What is there something wrong? This is beautiful because look at her level of attentiveness to the Prophet ﷺ's displeasure. That if she sees something, just his face, she's already on it, right? That also means that the Prophet ﷺ was a very graceful person. That he wasn't the kind of person that was going to run up to the curtains and snatch them down. I don't like this. He wasn't going to yell, right? In fact, he would have just been halim. He just would have had hilm and just said, I don't, right? Then when she asked, he said, the embroidery and the design is so much that it distracts me from my prayers. And I don't like that. And they said, Aisha immediately removed the curtains, cut up the fabric, and gave it away.
SubhanAllah.
Alayhi salatu wassalam. Wa radiyallahu anha. But my point is, look at their level of attentiveness to each other. Right? He doesn't have to yell, and he doesn't have to yell. Right? She notices him, and it's he can be gentle. Mm-hmm. Are we like that with our husbands, with our wives? That they don't have to fall on the ground or yell. We notice the slightest agitation, and then we move to correct whatever it is producing, or whatever it is that is producing the agitation. But it's 8 o'clock.
That was both ways, subhanAllah, what you just said. Aisha noticed that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was disturbed. Mm-hmm. Because, when you look at marriage, everything has khushu'. The khushu' of marriage is presence. This is what makes marriage valid. What makes your prayer effective is your spiritual presence, that you're praying with concentration and devotion. The Prophet ﷺ, Aisha paid attention to the Prophet's discomfort. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ also knew when Aisha was uncomfortable. He said, I know when you're angry and I know when you're happy.
Allah.
And she said, okay, Rasulullah, how? He said, when you say by the name of Muhammad's Lord, it means you're happy. When you say by the name of Ibrahim is Lord, you're not happy. Even the Prophet ﷺ was very careful. They knew one another. And so even the way we listen, like, are we people that immediately just dismiss and ignore? Are we attentive listeners? Are we selective listeners? Are we empathetic listeners? So even the different stages of are we selective listeners? We just listen. She's talking, and then by the end we say, "Oh, yeah," and that's it. It doesn't work like this. So it is an ibadah, and this ibadah requires spiritual presence.
the hadith in the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi of Zara, right? The hadith of Zara. Now, this woman, Aisha, is narrating the story to the Prophet ﷺ. The amazing thing is that it's so long. It's 10 different women talking about their relationships with their husbands, right? And they're using very poetic language to describe their husbands. Very detailed and very poetic. Yeah. One of my teachers said, notice that she was never interrupted by the Prophet ﷺ. And when she finished, he was able to say, I am to you as Abu Zara was to Zara, except that I will not leave you. Right? But the fact that he listened all the way through and had intelligent feedback and comforting feedback, he said, this is a lesson for us as husbands. SubhanAllah. Right? SubhanAllah. But Sabria, I know people have questions. We have Imam Mohamed AlMasmari here with us. You can present the questions on screen as you would like me to ask them, inshallah. Can the Imams talk about age differences between spouses, older women marrying younger guys? What do you think about this? I have seen a lot of my older friends, and her older friends, she said 25 plus, that's old, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
Who are single, struggle to find a spouse because the guys don't want a girl their age. They want someone younger. What do you think about that?
The Prophet ﷺ is our role model, and the Prophet ﷺ got married to Khadija, and she was 15 years older than him.
SubhanAllah. Yeah.
Age is nothing but a number. Unfortunately, sometimes you do have people that have these preferences, and this has to be addressed from the minbar, and people have to, accept it and just move on with it. But I don't have much, because Islam is very clear on it. Islam doesn't look at age, as a factor, of how one makes a decision. As long as they're compatible, they both know one another, and they, mashallah, both have good character, then age shouldn't be a problem. I'm not sure. Maybe you have something to add.
No, Bismillah. I've heard people say though that it is instructive, especially now, that women start being serious about marriage as early as 19 or 20. Right? Because by the time they reach age 25, it's like the men who are also 25, they're looking for women that are 20. Right? And so, it's almost like, some people are saying that by 25, a woman has aged out. Right, her chances of getting married after 25 are exponentially lower than her chances of getting married before 25. Right, so this is
also for the women. Sorry to say, but for my dear sisters, sometimes people have to take marriage very seriously from an early age.
Yep.
Sometimes sisters prioritize their careers over marriage.
Yep.
So I think both sides are responsible. We tell our brothers, you have to take on this responsibility, and age is nothing but a number. But on the other side, we tell our young sisters also to take this very seriously and to prioritize family, and not to delay it to a certain age where then they feel that they're just in a crunch, that they have to make a quick decision. So this is something they also need to plan for.
MashaAllah, very wisely stated. The next question, Sister Sabria. Would you encourage someone to stray away from someone they genuinely see as a potential, but their family is not made up of good people? Or is it better not to judge her by her family? What do you think about that?
What do you think?
I mean, it's jamaluha wa nasabuha ومالها ودينها وتربت يدا من أخذ بالدين. The Prophet ﷺ said, a woman, or by extension, a man, is married for 4 reasons. One is their physical beauty, their attractiveness. 2 is their wealth. 3 is their lineage. And 4 is their deen. Now, one commentary I've heard about this hadith is that all of these things have their level of importance, right? You can't dismiss any of them as unimportant, right? It is important that people are, pleasing to each other. It is important that one appreciate the person's, level of material comfort, right? It is important that the person's family be a family that you respect, right? No one, when I think about nasab, I think about nasab in the context of marriage, or family in the context of marriage. I tend not to think about it like, is the person's family kind of objectively good in some hierarchy of families? Like, is the person's family from the best families of Dearborn? Is the person's family a family that you will respect? That when her father says, I need to speak with you, you don't think, who are you? Right? Because she will feel that. She will feel, you don't esteem my father. You don't esteem my mother. When you attend our family gatherings, you look at my brothers like idiots. You look at my sisters like turkeys, right? So if a person's family is not a family that you respect, I think it's very unwise to marry that person, because you must respect their family. Right? You must respect their family. If I get the sense that somebody, accepts me but looks down on my mother, it might be difficult, right? I get the sense that somebody respects me but looks at my sister like, what an idiot, what a fool. This might be difficult. So I do tell people, if a person comes from a family and you don't think you can respect their family, this might be an issue. On the other hand, if the person comes from a family and their family, for whatever their family is, you are prepared to respect their family. Like, I know your father, like, real situation. I think you're a good sister, but your father owns a liquor store. Right? I think you're a good woman. I should prepare myself to respect and have deference toward a father who owns a liquor store. This is still my wife's father, right? If I think that because he owns a liquor store, I'm not going to attend his family gatherings, he sends me an invitation, I'll blow it off, he talks, I'll wave my hand, then this might not be the best situation for me. So I think that's relevant in that way.
Imam, just to let you know, they called Maghrib and they're waiting for me outside. I'm at Oman right now. If someone overlooks everything you just said right now, and they're like, don't worry about the family and this, the person is good, because everything you said is profound. That has to be taken into consideration. But if someone still decides to overlook all of this and believes that this is all unnecessary, then one point to consider is the effectiveness of the family on this individual. Like, is this person fully independent? So if this, for example, the husband or the potential, the brother is coming and he's proposing, but his father has this and the family is known for this, do they affect his decision making? Is he affected by their surrounding? If that is the case, then it's a failed marriage to begin with. If this person is fully independent, they've moved on, their families have their own challenges, and this individual is upstanding, mashallah, they've made their own path, then there's still some flexibility there, because
No, I don't think a person should be judged according to their family, but I have to know that in marrying them, I am accepting their family.
100%. But I'm saying, but family is very important. But some people, because of the connection, they want to overlook family. So the only time I would just say, if they're like too attached and they just can't separate and they really want this to move on, say, is this person fully independent?
MashaAllah. No, Jazakallah khair.
If that's not the case, then I just say, you know what, you shouldn't even go into this.
No, Bismillah. بالناس يعني صلي بالناس إن شاء الله.
Thank you,
Jazakallah
Ustadh.
khair. We
So
usually
I've learned from you today. Wallahi.
No. Wallahi. Every time I sit with you, I learn. Right.
Wallahi.
So now I want to give people a heads up, because we normally stay on until 9:30 Eastern. I'm gonna stay on for 15 minutes, right, to answer any questions people might have. I know that I am not nearly as knowledgeable.
Wallah, you're sharing, mashallah.
No. I'm not nearly as knowledgeable.
Mashallah.
Nearly as personable, or as well
so
spoken.
You're so humble.
No, as Imam AlMasmari, but I will try my best in all earnestness, inshallah. Habib, we will be in touch soon, inshallah. I look forward to sitting, enjoying a burger with you.
I can't wait.
In Michigan, inshallah, with a pretzel bun. I got you. With a pretzel bun. Inshallah khair. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we can take a few more questions on this topic. May the shuyukh give advice for those of us who don't have parents that can introduce them to prospects. How can we meet people in an Islamically acceptable way? Subhanallah, here I am not prepared to encourage people to be immodest, right? Al-haya shu'batun min al-iman. Modesty is a branch of faith. But I will tell you, you have to be prepared to go for yours, right? In the same way that the Prophet ﷺ said, blessed are the women of the Ansar, because they did not allow excessive shyness to prevent them from learning their deen. What about one who allows excessive shyness to prevent them from practicing their deen? So that if your situation is one in which you don't have parents that will introduce you to people, you have to be prepared to talk to community leaders. You have to be prepared to seek mutual acquaintances, right? You see somebody, it's like, yo, who is that? Okay, it might be forward for me to come directly to that person, but who do I know that they know? And what's tripped out about it, we're supposed to be living at a time where people are more connected than ever, right? I can open someone's page and see all of our common friends, like automatically, right? What about DMing that person? Do you know so-and-so? Do you know if they're interested in marriage? If it's a brother, do you know so-and-so? Do you know if they're interested in marriage? Do you know how I might talk to them about talking to their parents, etc.? It is something that I realize many of us probably wish we didn't have to be so proactive. We wish that we could just sit back, use the apps, or or just have people in the community look after us. But the reality is, we might be in a situation that requires us to be a little more proactive and a little less demure. And we have to be prepared to do that, lillah. So I think, opening ourselves to that, discomfort that comes with, being forward and being proactive is a way that we might have to deal with that. And then consulting people in community, so that if you do meet somebody and this person would like to meet you, you have people in the community that you can ask to host. I know my wife and I, we're completely open to that. We actually see that as a communal responsibility, that if there's a brother and a sister, or like there's a sister, they're converts, they don't come from Muslim families, but they want to get to know each other, we say, come over and have dinner at our house, right? You can sit around our table. The brother will come, the sister will come. you all can meet each other in a way that is chaperoned, so as to safeguard, both of them from anything that Shaitan might inject in their getting to know one another. Other questions? Or if that wasn't, okay. If the marriage I want to pursue is Islamically permissible, is it okay to defy my parents' wishes? Well, I want to go on record saying no, because my daughter might see this recording one day. No, but permissibility and making the correct decision are sometimes not exactly synonymous. They're not exactly the same thing. We know that in the Hanafi school of jurisprudence, or the Hanafi school of the Sharia, Islamic do's and don'ts, an adult, mature, a sane woman is capable of contracting her own marriage. This is something unique to the Hanafi school. Right now, everybody's going to go and become Hanafi now. No, but it is unique to the Hanafi school that a woman who is an adult, and whether she's been married before or not, and she's sagacious, meaning she's intelligent, she understands her situation, she can contract her own marriage. And in the Hanafi school, this is based on a qiyas of a woman being allowed to be a witness to financial transactions and dealings. And I believe, because this is established by the Quran, scholars of the Hanafi madhab, they say, well, if a woman is suitable to be a witness as someone is contracting their business, then bil awla, even more so, she is suitable to be her own guarantor when she's only dealing with herself, right? In every other school, at least in the Sunni context, and that's the context that I'm immediately familiar with, a woman who has never been married before, does need the permission of a male guardian. And this is not seen as something to handicap her, but rather something to ensure her protection, because marriage is so grave and so consequential. That being said, if you plan on this marriage, now men in no school of Islamic jurisprudence need the permission of their parents to get married. However, that being said, if you plan on this marriage working out in the long term, it is never advisable to elope. It is never advisable to marry against the wishes of your parents, or to marry without their knowledge. I have only seen this produce either A, so much tension that it leads to separation and divorce, remorse, regret, or B, the relationship with the in-laws is never repaired, right? It creates a breach that is never repaired, right? So my thing would be, tell them that you would like to get married. Tell them that this is something that you want to do. Tell them that at the very least, if you don't have their support, at least they are aware that you intend to take this position. Something like that. Even that I would recommend against, but that is better than doing this without their knowledge, right? But telling them, look, if I don't have your support, I'm prepared to take a position that says I don't need it. If you think this will motivate them to be more interested in your perspective. However, I don't think it's advisable to marry against the wishes of your parents. right? Try to convince them, seek someone's intercession, right? If you can't get through to them, try to talk to someone that you think can get through to them, right? Or if my scared straight video is released, show them the video. Can we see the next question?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
It might be easier for me to like ask you the questions.
Okay, bismillah.
Okay, so this one is kind of two parts. It's actually Mesa, and then I went back on it too. So she had mentioned that she's been seeing like a lot of marriages ending within the first year. And then what are some common issues that you see arise in the beginning of marriage? And then I kind of piggyback off of her, and I was saying that I think in my generation was like our early 20s. We have a lot of like, maybe not fear of marriage, but anxiety about marriage, because you see there's a generation, maybe your generation or like a generation under, who have been married for a couple decades, and now I'm seeing a lot of divorces from that generation. So, or even older than you guys maybe. And I think a lot of us are kind of like, well, what's the point? Like the people right after getting married,
as they say, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, right? But in all, just focus on both Mesa, mashallah, who helps us out a great deal, and your question. First year issues that I think are common, just unrealized expectations. I think that, we often enter marriage not prepared for the compromise and the work that living with another person requires. I think that something has given us this preliminary understanding that marriage is only going to enhance my life. I think, especially couples that are a little more mature, we come to marriage fully formed. I know who I am. I know what I like. I know what I do. I know what I want. And the marriage is judged according to how it validates, furnishes, and delivers upon all of that preset kind of knowledge. And if it doesn't, the marriage is deemed unworthy, undesirable, and a failure. And I think the way that we're coming at this is wrong. You have to know that there's a me, there's a you, and there's an us. And how that us looks might affect that me, and it might affect that you. There might be some things that, in marriage to another person, I might need to be prepared to adjust or amend. Sometimes just temporarily, maybe not forever, but maybe temporarily I might have to adjust this or amend this. And I think that we tend not to approach marriage with that spirit. We also, I think, think that marriage is supposed to be everything, right? That, you have some people that if they're married and they recognize that they're unhappy, they think I'm unhappy with my marriage. And it could be you're not engaged in any otherwise fulfilling activity. You're not exercising. Your religious practice hasn't really been a point of focus. You're professionally unfulfilled. You're thinking my marriage sucks. No, it's not. Marriage is not a panacea. If I'm not satisfied with myself and what I'm doing, it is unfair for me to say I'm dissatisfied with my marriage. Why? Because I thought that marriage is supposed to make all of that stuff better. No, you have to still, while preparing for that us, you still have to look at yourself and recognize the nickel that you have in the dime that is marriage. Other common issues, again, I mean, many, therapists, they say that finances, intimacy, children, a lot of the arguing in marriage comes back to those three categories. And I think in the first year, maybe not children, because that's early for children, but definitely finances and intimacy. And I think that not expecting those areas of marriage to just magically work themselves out. I think we do have a culture of prudishness where nobody wants to speak candidly about intimacy. Nobody wants to speak candidly about sex. And we have embraced this very Victorian culture that all things erotic are forbidden speech. And so before marriage and during marriage, people don't have open lines of communication about what's working, what's not working, what's fulfilling, what's unfulfilling. And I think that snowballs and ends up causing problems in marriage. And then finances too. Somehow we think that, especially people that have grown up mostly, middle class or affluent, money is just something you don't even have to think about. Money is something that you don't even have to talk about. And we forget that it's not just money as a source of our stability, it's money as a reflection of our values, right? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Do we have this? Do we have that? Are you this kind of are you that kind of person? And I think it's important not that we agree on everything, but that we're clear on, how we are approaching this aspect of our lives together. I mean, and I'm just thinking out loud. In terms of Sabria's question about, anxiety and thinking about separation, marriage is always a place of tawakkul. You're relying on Allah. I don't care if you do 200 premarital, sessions. You will never really know how life with this person is until you begin a life with this person. And where I think your salat and istikhara becomes, that prayer that you pray to God for guidance before getting married, is that you pray to Allah and you ask Allah to give you, peace of mind and peace of heart about the decision. And if you make the decision, trust only good will come from it, even if it ends in divorce. Some people, I think, grossly misunderstand istikhara. They think that if you make istikhara and you follow the istikhara the right way, nothing bad can happen. No. It might be that this was the good, that you would experience marriage, that you would learn from it, that you would grow from it, that you would become a more mature man, a more mature woman, even if the marriage didn't work out. So in that case, there's nothing to be afraid of, right? Of course, all of us plan on our marriages, working out, and it really being a till death do us part situation. But even if it isn't, we trust that Allah will bring good from it, no matter what. And that's the way that I think about that.
That was really good. It's 8:30. Do you want to do one more, or do we want to?
No, we'll do one more.
Part two. I think we should do a part two of this conversation.
Okay, we'll do one more. We'll do one more, and we'll do a part two, inshallah.
All right. I think this was like more of a situation, but I thought it would be maybe good to address because it came up earlier. So this one person had mentioned early on that let me go to the first one. My fault. Okay, so they said that when they were younger, they had wanted to get married when they were like 16. They mentioned to their mom, and now they're at the age of 28, and they've only met one person. Their mom only helped them meet one person, and now they're at the age of 28, where they kind of have to do it alone because they haven't found anyone. I'm trying to find that a second. Oh, yeah. And I think it'd definitely be easier with help of family. So I think maybe this is a constant thing that comes up. Like people when they're younger, they want to get married, and then they're not allowed to.
Yeah, man, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. I have strong opinions about this. And I understand the objections to my opinion. I think that if we are serious, now I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to mention the culture that I think has to support this kind of communal move. if we are serious about our children being here, thriving here, and maintaining their chastity, because she mentioned an outlet, having a halal outlet, or the person mentioned male, I don't know if it was male, female, but they mentioned having a halal outlet for their sexual desire. That is a real thing. No one should be shamed for that. The idea that, somehow you're supposed to exist in a society like ours, and these thoughts, these feelings that are completely natural, never occur to a person. No, I think we need to create a culture where when those ideas, when those feelings, and it's not just physical, it's also emotional. When a person gets to a place where they want physical and emotional companionship, we as a community should be prepared to foster their ability to explore that aspect of who they are in the context of our religion. This could mean, however, that people that are not ready to really live together, be financially independent, people that are, already in their careers or finishing their degrees, this could be well before that. And if we're serious about this, two things, or maybe a few things, I think we have to be prepared to do. One, we have to be prepared to support these people, these young people, as they engage in what might appear to just be halal dating. Like, they're married, they're both in college, they're able to enjoy each other's company, they're able to experience companionship with each other while not being completely independent in terms of their living arrangement, in terms of their financial dealings. We would have to talk very candidly about birth control, right? Because obviously, if we're entering this kind of situation, children, in terms of our ability to secure the kinds of lives that we anticipate having with each other in the future, children might frustrate that. We'd also have to talk about how we're going to manage our, lives together as we are finishing our undergraduate degrees, because we don't want our time together to get in the way of what we need to do to build our family. We'd also have to, I think, create a parallel culture that does not penalize women for divorce. See, that's the other thing that, in some marriage cultures, a woman has a one-shot deal at this, right? She can't explore if, let's say I make a decision at 19 to try, to preserve my chastity, and I turn out, maybe I grow in a certain direction, they grow in a certain direction. If we have cultures where this is it, that's it, she'll never get another proposal, nobody will ever be interested in her again, ever in life, then it stands to reason that she'll never, she's only going to marry into a situation that she thinks is 100% ironclad, everything is together. I just don't think that serves us. I think we have to be, if we're going to embrace a move toward earlier marriage, we have to embrace, a move toward remarriage. That, if two people that are 22 and 23 marry, maybe after 4 or 5 years it doesn't work out. That should not be the end of, their opportunities to find meaningful companionship. And I realize some people feel like, now I'll mention some of the objections. Some people feel like, well, if we did that, we would be setting them up for, physical and emotional intimacy without responsibility. My counter would be no. If you didn't do it, you would be setting them up for this way. We can actually rear them into responsibility with each other. They're experiencing each other with the oversight of their parents and their families. Some people feel like, well, if you give a man, especially, it's like the old saying, if he can get the milk without the hard work of getting the cow, then why would he ever? Nah, I think if you have a culture where older men in his life make sure that the expectation is to be a husband. The expectation is to be a responsible partner. He doesn't fall into this, taste the honey and run, hit it and quit it kind of thing that, could be a danger if a young man, enters a marriage. So, I could go on, but I recognize there are some problems with this idea, but I think it's something we have to get more serious about, and Allah knows best.
I think that was really good, alhamdulillah. I think we can end there. I think we definitely have to do a part 2 because we have more questions. And even in everything that you said, there's like, okay, what about this and this? Maybe that's just me. But I think that I think a lot of people do have a lot of thoughts and like questions. And maybe this could be a conversation, like the next like live ALIM program that you have a session on marriage. So if you'd...
Inshallah, before I speak about marriage publicly, I have to talk to Hadiya and see if she gives me the ijazah. She may say that, no, you don't have the ijazah to talk about marriage. So we'll see what happens, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, if you want to end us out in dua, we can go ahead and do that, and then I'll close out with some announcements, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين جزاك الله خير السلام عليكم.
Alaikum assalam. All right, alhamdulillah. Thank you guys for all joining us for that conversation. We would love for you to keep sharing it with your friends and family, people who you feel like might benefit from it. If you want to see a part 2, let us know, reach out to us, inshallah. If there's more questions that you have, maybe we can do like a mini series, invite other guests to continue to talk about this. But I think this conversation was really beneficial. I want to end this session with a few closing announcements for those of you who weren't here in the beginning. We have a few spots left in the ALIM summer program. So if you have not been able to attend the ALIM summer program before, or maybe you went years ago and you want to reattend, this is a great opportunity to do so. We have a couple spots left, inshallah. So go to our website and you can find out more information. That begins in July. So it's a good time now because it's coming up very closely. We're also still looking for a brother's counselor. So if you want to come and you want to help out, maybe you're an alumni, or maybe you have experience with being a counselor or a youth counselor or anything like that, then this is a good opportunity for you, and you can reach out to us if you have someone in mind, or if you yourself are interested in taking that position, inshallah. And our last announcement is that we have an upcoming Umrah trip in December. So this is a Sira-themed Umrah trip with Dr. Jackson, Sheikh Adi, Ustadh Ubaydullah, and I believe one more. I think Dr. Munir is coming as well. So this just was announced, and I'm like very excited about it. So if you are interested in attending the Umrah trip, there's a limited spots available for that, and there's an interest form. We don't have registration out yet. That will be coming out soon, but there's an interest form that you can check out on our website, and we will share the link in the chat, inshallah. Before we go, we want to thank all of you for joining. If there are any ALIM frames topics that you would like to hear, please do put in the comments or reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and we will try to put that in for the next few months, inshallah. We're building our list of events and guests that we want to bring on, inshallah. So thank you so much. Please keep the ALIM team in your du'as, and we will see you next month, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.